Well, thanks for agreeing to be interviewed. So wait a second. Make sure it's recording here. Does it say recording on your end?
No, it did not say. Oh, no, it doesn't. Oh, yes, maybe it is. Yes, it does say recording. It's been recording
Okay,
for 9
great.
minutes.
Okay, yeah, I started earlier. Great. So, yeah, it's my first time using StreamYard. Okay, we have Jim Kavanaugh, editor of the Polemicist blog, and he's a frequent guest on Garland Nixon and Dr. Wilmer Leon, Connecting the Dots. He's also been interviewed on Press TV and writer for Counterpunch and many other venues. Thank you for agreeing to be interviewed.
Thank you for having me,
So,
Kate. Always a pleasure.
o-
Let me just mention that the
okay,
best place to find me is on Substack, my Substack.
Substack. Okay, great. Volume is a little low, but I think it's usable right
What?
now. Let me. Yeah, you can hear me. I hope okay. Yeah, I think things will be good. Okay. Yeah, lots been going on. Probably I'll begin with Venezuela. You had an article about starting off with the Trump's attacks on what looks like Venezuelan or Colombian fishing boats. At least 100 people have been killed, according to reports. Looks like, and they originally the idea was stopping drug smugglers, although fentanyl, whatever, isn't coming from Venezuela. It's well known and was a pretty transparent excuse. Now it's pretty blatantly a regime change operation. Interestingly, you wrote how a lot of people, the Democrats, are actually surprisingly a little upset not so much about the regime change operation, but about killing killing fishermen, killing unarmed civilians. It looks like, and there were double tap strikes. There were cases of people like saying "I surrender," waving in the water, and they came back
Yeah.
and killed them. And people are outraged by this. A bit surprising because war presidents committing war crimes and given a free pass for quite a while, but this is getting embarrassing even for the U.S. military. I know some
Yeah.
conservatives, friends of mine, who are getting upset at this. Now, it looks like a regime change operation against Venezuela. I think a large portion of the U.S. Navy is now in the Caribbean. I forget how much, maybe 10% or more of the U.S. Navy
There's more,
assets
yeah.
are more, yeah. Do you think this will be a direct, or it is a war against Venezuela? Do you think there'll be a direct U.S. invasion of Venezuela, or it's going to be a standoff for a while? And what exactly is going on here?
Okay, well, yeah. I wrote about this in the first Trump administration, a long article about what was going on with the whole Juan Guaido business, to the regime change 1.0. And now he's back again. And of course, I think this is being driven by Rubio. And what we're seeing with this is one of the signature characteristics of the Trump administration and of Trump, which is like Schrodinger's Trump. He doesn't really want a war with Venezuela. He doesn't want to get involved in something, especially if he doesn't know if he thinks it's going to cost a lot, both in lives and treasure. So, but the people behind him, the neocons and Rubio, they want to do this, and they're out to get, they tell Trump, we're going to get the oil. And Trump, oh, that's great, we're going to get the oil. And just like with Syria, Trump, oh, we're going to leave Syria. And they say, no, we're going to stay for the oil. Oh, we'll stay for the oil. Okay, no, they didn't stay for the oil. They stayed to overthrow the Syrian government. That's what they stayed for, and they did it. But so what I'm saying here is that it's hard to know whether Trump is actually going to pull the trigger for a direct attack, because it's going to be tough. And, he ran and the whole MAGA base was no more regime change wars, no more forever wars. And this is clearly what this is, and so he's going to be hurt politically, of course, if he does this, and it's not going to be that easy. You can't, you can bomb the presidential palace, you can kill Maduro, you can install, a coterie of the Venezuelan bourgeoisie and puppet Venezuelans, but there's going to be a civil war in Venezuela then. The people are armed. It's going to be tough. You're going to have to send in American troops. They might be able to shoot down American planes. They might be able to hit an American ship. It's very difficult. So he's playing this game where I'm not in it, I'm not out of it. I'm not in it, I'm not out of it. This is exactly what he's doing with Ukraine, because he can't make up his mind. But it's the nasty people behind him, the Rubios and the Stephen Millers. They're pushing this, and the aim for them is twofold. One, Rubio wants to get Cuba, and this is hurting Cuba, and it's going to hurt Cuba, and ultimately that's what they want to get. But two, also, they want to keep China out of Latin America. China is building. They want to build a railroad across Latin America from the Pacific to the Atlantic. They're investing in Latin America, and the Americans want to reassert the Monroe Doctrine. Double down, triple down on it, and essentially tell the Chinese, you can't have investments in Latin America, and tell the Latin American countries, you got to break off your relations with China and agree to be, our backyard again, and our neo-colonial backyard, and our corporations run your country. So this is ultimately what it's about. It is a regime change operation, but again, Trump himself doesn't quite know what to do. So we sit around here watching Trump trying to figure out what decision Trump is ultimately going to make between his neocon handlers and his instinct not to get involved in a war that's going to be a nasty big war and going to make trouble for him. So I don't know what he's going to do, but what they seem to have decided on is this war of the blockade, which is very nasty. And somebody's going to have to confront this, and to a certain extent, the Iranians are confronting it. They're saying, oh, you took a ship in the Caribbean. We're going to take another ship here in the Persian Gulf. They're grabbing tankers. Right. But this is completely illegal what the Americans are doing. They have no jurisdiction over any of these tankers, whatever sanctions. These have no legal international, this is piracy. And they have to decide what they're going to do. And people are going to have to decide. The Chinese are going to decide, are we going to let our tankers or any tanker sending oil to us be commandeered and taken by the Americans or not? So someone's going to have to confront the Americans with it. I think they should put stingers on these tankers and say, if your helicopter comes here to land troops, we're going to knock it out of the sky. Something has to happen here to call the question on it. And I don't know how it's going to come. I'm very afraid, it's one of these things where the tension is there. They're going to build up the tension as much as possible. And there are 15 different ways in which a confrontation can occur and must occur, really, to resolve the tension. And I don't know what it's going to be. So either Trump is going to, the only way he can win here is by regime change in Venezuela and or Cuba. The only way he can lose is by withdrawing, giving up the blockade and withdrawing. And one of those two things has to happen at some point. And at some point, somebody has to force calling the question. As I say, either Trump has to make an attack, install the puppets, or back off. And at some point, either somebody has to challenge the American blockade by saying, we have stingers on this ship. You come with a helicopter, we're going to knock it out of the sky before it lands on the ship. Or, chug right through. Have a Chinese tanker or a Russian tanker chug right through the blockade and say, go ahead. I dare you to try and take this ship. I don't know what's going to happen. This is one of the unknowns that we have. We're facing a new year in which there are all these unresolved conflicts where there's this tension, incredible tension, and military forces in play that going to have to be resolved in one way or another. The question has to be called, and I don't know who's going to call it or how. And what we see, one of the things we see about this, though, I think everybody is Trump is really a weak president. He doesn't really know what he wants to do. He thinks he can get away with bullying and make a deal. I'll make a deal. I'll buy out Maduro. I'll buy out. This is not the way international politics works. But he doesn't quite understand that. But behind him is Stephen Miller and Rubio and J.D. Vance and Russell Vought, and they have programs, and they want those programs. And this is definitely being, the backbone of this is Rubio, and he wants to end any kind of socialist, communist, pink tide in Latin America and overthrow the government of Cuba, first of all. And he's trying to get at that through Venezuela. But we're in a regime change situation that nobody quite knows how it's going to resolve.
Right. Trump is allowing himself to be manipulated. Apparently, there is an oil tanker the Coast Guard couldn't seize. Apparently,
Yeah.
it's, as I understand, it's Panamanian registry, but Chinese owned, and the Coast Guard's been chasing it
Yeah.
around the Caribbean. That's pretty wild.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
you got to say when that happens. Well, is it because they really couldn't seize it, or they really didn't want to go after the Chinese? You know,
Legal.
that's
Yeah.
the point.
Yeah.
You know, it's oh, they couldn't seize that one. Oh, but maybe they're saying maybe we shouldn't try and seize the chip going to China. So
Yeah.
that's the kind of thing you have to do. You have to, but in the meantime, they're hurting Venezuela and they're hurting Cuba. You know, if the tankers start, one tanker turns back, if they start turning back and not willing to go through the blockade, this blockade has to be broken at some point. And it's going to hurt Venezuela, and they can't stop supplying Cuba. You know, that's what they want. They want Venezuelan oil can't go to Cuba. You can't sustain that. Somebody has to call the question on this and break that blockade. I don't know what to say. It's very hard to figure that out. It's very hard for Venezuela to do that. Venezuela is going to be overwhelmed by the United States militarily, but it's not going to be a cakewalk. And it's not going to, and in terms of what's happened with the internal politics of Venezuela, there will be a civil war. It'll be a mess. The Americans are going to have to pour money and more arms into that, and troops eventually. That's going to be nonsense. It's going to be terrible. But in the meantime, you know, the countries that have the power here, Russia and China, have to exert it and have to say, you know, we are challenging, we are deliberately and directly challenging this blockade, which is illegal. And if you fire on our ships, we're going to fire back. And I don't know to what extent they're willing to do that. You know, they have their own backyards and their own things to play and their own things they got to worry about. And to a certain extent, you know, but China should be, you know, this is clearly an offensive against Chinese investment in Latin America. So if this is the point, if Russia and China think both in the Middle East and in Latin America, which is much farther away from them, that, oh, this doesn't concern us that much because it's way far away. No, it does concern you, because if you let the United States push you out of Latin America, well, then you're sitting back saying again, we're going to let the Americans rule the world, and we'll operate within the constraints that the Americans set for us. And that's not multipolarism. You want to be multipolarism, you say, no. We're going to invest in Latin America. We're going to buy oil from Venezuela. We're going to sell oil that's one of the things that the Americans want to do, because the Venezuelan oil production, you know, what the Americans have done with that, with their sanctions, have made it difficult for the Venezuelans to refurbish their equipment, to upgrade their equipment, etc. And China was helping them with that, bringing in oil production equipment to upgrade their oil facilities so that they can better and more efficiently produce and sell the oil. And that's what the United States wants to stop. And if the Chinese let them do that, then you're saying, sorry, China and Russia, you want to be Mr. Multipolar with this a multipolar world? It's a new world. Is it? Well, if you're sitting back saying, oh, except in Latin America, except in the Western Hemisphere, except in the Middle East, you know, there will allow the Americans to set the terms by within which we'll operate. And these are, you know, this is changing in a very radical way. I mean, the Chinese and the Chinese certainly economically have, but at some point, the Americans have what's left for the United States is not the economic power anymore, but this military power, and especially the naval military power and the air power. So they're going to do this. They picked a fight in Venezuela, and if the bully picks a fight, you can't back off. And they picked the fight on their what they consider their territory, you know. But if you allow them to define it as their territory, then it's not a multipolar world. It's multipolar, but it's okay. We're going to give you the Middle East, and we're going to give you Latin America. That's not a lot. You're giving up a lot, and it's not really a multipolar world. So it's a very difficult situation. And I you know, a lot of these situations where at this point, you know, there have to be armed confrontations, armed military confrontations. You have to call the question and not back off and say, okay, we're going to turn our ships around.
Right. That's interesting. Yeah. Venezuela has the largest proven oil reserve in the world. It's crude oil, not high quality, so it's expensive to process it. But yeah, that's interesting. Yeah. you mentioned how about 2 months ago now, 6 Democratic congressmen had this statement urging or saying that U.S. troops doing something illegal have a right to disobey orders. Then that was like, these are people who are like former CIA or security state or former military. They were urging the U.S. military to rebel. I was, whoa. And then Trump accused them of treason. They can invoke the death penalty. I was like, whoa. What's behind that? I mean, I was reminded of George Galloway when the Iraq War. He had his famous speech. He was interviewed by Qatari radio, I think it was. Yeah, that was great. That put him on the map. They was expelled from the Labor Party. That was heroic. But the Dems doing this a little different.
Excuse me?
Yeah. So what was going on behind the Democrats urging that? That was getting a little weird. These are people who are not, they're not going to follow the logic, like they don't want troops to frag their officers or stuff like that. Why were they saying this? It was a little weird.
Well, it's anti-Trump, and it's part of, from their point of view, it's partisan. And they're absolutely right on this. Trump is not a king. He's not a dictator. The American soldiers, and they said very clearly, not only have the right, but they must disobey illegal orders. That is correct. Okay? This is not an option. This is a duty for American troops to disobey illegal orders. And they use that. They didn't say, okay, here are the illegal orders you should disobey. They didn't say, however, what Trump is ordering you and Hegseth are ordering you to do in the Mediterranean, blowing up these boats. We have no idea what the hell is on them. And even if you know what's on them, the drugs, there's no legal justification for blowing up a drug boat anymore. There is. That's like telling the cops you think there's a drug dealer on the corner, shoot him dead. This is nonsense. It's worse than that because it's international. It's not the United States. The United States has no right to be blowing up boats in international or other territorial waters because they suspect there's some drug trafficking on. It's baloney. This is just the United States illegally and criminally exerting its power to intimidate and by killing people at random to intimidate Venezuela. So, these are illegal orders, but these Democrats didn't say, I'm all for them. They said, well, in general, in the abstract, the American troops, their orders, their oath requires them to disobey illegal orders. Okay, what are the illegal orders? And that's what the Trump Prime Minister. What are the illegal orders you're talking about? Now, there's nothing wrong with what the Democrats said. It's absolutely right. But are they themselves? Well, they said, I don't know whether these particular orders are illegal or not. I'm not going to make a judgment right now about whether Trump blowing up these boats is illegal. Well, then I'm sorry, but you're playing a game, and you're playing a game. Let's get Trump. Look, Trump is following the script that Obama set with drone strikes, double tap drone strikes, killing American citizens who were suspected of something or who's fought. I mean, literally, they killed a 16-year-old son of a preacher, an American kid, an American citizen, and Obama said he should have had a better father. So Obama administration set this example of killing American citizens, killing people at his whim, who he suspected of something. So, and double tap strikes. So the point is this: if you're going to say this is a very radical thing to say, but you're going to play the game, play it honestly and forthrightly, and say these are illegal acts, and you soldiers and sailors, from admirals to the sailor pushing the button, you are committing crimes and you have to disobey those orders. And we're going to call you out on it if you don't. Okay. And they're not willing to do that. They're not going to do that because that is too radical, because it is something, it's a very radical thing to tell soldiers disobey orders. This is an illegal order. You have to disobey it. Now, but if this order, if the Democrats can't say that blowing up these damn boats, we don't have any idea who's in them, what's going on, blowing them up and killing people in the water are illegal orders that they should disobey, then they should really just stop pretending that they really are occupying some moral high ground that all they're trying to do is kind of insinuate that because Trump's giving the order, it's illegal order. No, these are illegal orders. It was illegal when Obama did it, and when George Bush did it, or Clinton did it, whatever. But they're not willing to say that. So I'm all for them saying what they said, but I'm also recognizing what they're not saying and why they're not saying it, and what sniveling little cowards that makes them. Because if you can't say flat out, this is an illegal order, or you have to stop obeying that order and call the question again, create a crisis, create a fight with the Trump administration, with Hegseth. Then they're putting themselves on the position of they have to then bring impeachment, bring an impeachment motion against Trump. Then you have to do that. Not for these nonsense they tried to impeach him with twice. Of course, they blew that because they played this stupid game of impeaching him. We don't even remember what it was for, because it was just that was just political nonsense. Here you have real reason. Here you have a real reason. Don't do it. Say these are illegal orders. The president of the United States is issuing, the Secretary of Defense, they're issuing illegal orders. We are going to impeach them, and have that fight day by day. Make that the fight that you have in the public, in the press. But they don't want to do that. I think everybody should disobey illegal orders. Is this illegal? I don't want to talk about that. I don't want to say what that is.
Right. They don't want to take it too far. As an aside, I think the main enemy is always U.S. imperialism, but there's been some criticism of Hugo Chavez and Maduro from the left. Maduro is arming the working class, which I think is the correct thing to do. As I understand, Allende in Chile was reluctant to do this. He did it at the very end. He did it, but he was reluctant. What is your take on Maduro and the Bolivarian Revolution?
Well, I am not. I know there's a lot of there are critiques of Maduro. I'm not sure what he's done in the past 5 years. I haven't been following that closely. I'm glad to see. It seems to me the communes movement is a good movement in Venezuela. My take has always been, back when I wrote that article in first Trump administration, was it 2017 or whatever? The ultimate situation here is that Maduro, Chavez, again, Venezuela is a capitalist country, and they didn't really challenge that to what they did was they brought a political movement into power that challenged the dictatorship of the bourgeoisie. That what I'm saying is we have a kind of, since the Chavez movement came into power in Venezuela, you've had essentially a situation of dual power, where the class forces, the bourgeoisie, the capitalist class, still controls most of the Venezuelan economy. Okay, and they still control Venezuelan media, and they're allowed to organize and control rebellion, and the Chavista movement has not challenged, has not said we are going to replace the dictatorship of the bourgeoisie with the dictatorship of the proletariat, in the sense that we are going to take full control of the capital wealth of Venezuelan society. We're going to reduce the bourgeoisie to a dominated faction within our society, and not allow ourselves. It's kind of an accelerated version of social democracy, in a sense. And this is what you see here is the issue of the dictatorship of the proletariat versus the dictatorship of the bourgeoisie, which doesn't necessarily mean anti-democratic, or it means economic and political control, ultimate economic and political control. We in the United States live on the dictatorship of the bourgeoisie. The capitalist class exercises the final veto power over everything. In Venezuela, it's neither fish nor fowl, and that's been that way since Chavez came into power. And the capitalists know this, and the capitalists don't like it, and they want to resolve the issue in favor, once and for all, of the dictatorship of the bourgeoisie. We no longer want to allow this situation of dual power to exist. We want to crush, and it will be a crushing. It'll be a Pinochet type. There'll be tens of thousands of people killed. It'll be fascist up the wazoo. Whereas the Maduro, the Chavista faction, they don't really want to crush the bourgeoisie. They don't really want to say, oh, we're going to take full power here. And you're going to be, insofar as this private property and the means of production is going to be fully under the control of the working class government. So they have to decide whether they're going to fight the fight, because this is going to be resolved one way or the other. You're going to have a full-on dictatorship of the bourgeoisie or a full-on dictatorship of the proletariat. The country is going to be in charge of the Venezuelan bourgeoisie, ruling in league with the American capitalists, or it's going to be in charge of the Venezuelan working class, in league with whatever international allies it can have, but clearly establishing its right to rule and its power over the material wealth, the means of production in Venezuelan society. So this is, again, one of these situations where the Chavistas have not wanted to actually resolve that issue. We'll allow we'll allow this to be a capitalist country. We just want to have certain kind of reforms and this and that and the other thing. And we're going to organize working class and have housing. And they have had real reforms and they've built real things. But again, the Venezuelan bourgeoisie isn't saying, "Oh, that's okay. We'll work along with you." They're saying, "No. We're going to get our American friends and we're going to crush you." And as long as you let them have political and economic power, enough political and especially economic power, they're going to be able to do that. So I say, to Maduro and the Chavista movement, you have to resolve this issue. This issue is and you may not want to resolve it. You may be fine living in capitalist society as a kind of ultra reform movement, but they're not fine with you doing that. They're going to come after you, and they're coming after you. So this is a tough situation. Again, these are questions that the question has to be called. And if the socialist left movement doesn't call it, guess what? The American capitalist, international capitalism is going to call the question and say, you got to get the hell out of here. We don't want this dual power situation anymore.
Right. You can't run revolution halfway. Disaster. Yeah. So interesting. Slight pivot here. The Epstein scandal is blowing up big time. I think Epstein didn't kill himself, and I think it was 2019. Now they're releasing more and more of the files. The Democratic congressional committee is releasing for partisan reasons to make Trump look bad, and Trump is starting to look extremely bad. There's some pretty lurid stories that a young woman in Oklahoma who may have been raped by Trump and Epstein was later on. She went to the police. She was shot. There's another story, unconfirmed, that in Lake Erie, a young baby was thrown off Trump's yacht. Lurid stories like that.
Ooh,
I don't know how true. Yeah, I don't know how true. Lake Erie, not Lake Erie. I don't know how true that is. Just pushback, but anyway, it is. And also, there's story they tried to redact some of it, but they did an extremely clumsy job and used Adobe Acrobat. You can only find they blocked it out. How far do you think the Epstein thing will go? I don't think anybody will be prosecuted. Might be, I don't know. But a friend of mine compared this to in the French Revolution, run up to the French Revolution, the 1780s. It was what they called the affair of the necklace. It was a complicated scandal Marie Antoinette was tied up in with an Austrian jeweler, and this didn't create the French Revolution, obviously, but helped disillusion people against the ruling class. Do you think this Epstein thing will prove to be something like that? How significant do you think it will be?
Well, I think it's very significant on the right. Again, the MAGA movement was driving this. All these guys, Kash Patel and Don Bongino, they made their bones on, we got to release the Epstein files, Alex Jones. This was a big thing on the MAGA movement, and it was the decadent elite. It's very interesting because the concept of decadence is interesting here, because that's, that appeared on the socialist left for 100 years. The concept of decadence, that the elite was, decadent, immoral, and wasteful, and and really what you've got is the right has done it in terms of it's reflected its in terms of Christianity and moralism, etc. But there's this notion of decadence, and what you do have, I mean, look, what Epstein was, he's a mess for everybody. And the important thing for me about the Epstein thing, politically, is he was a Mossad asset. There's no question about this. A CIA Mossad asset. And Mossad, I mean, you have to be willing to say this. It's clear now from the documents. He bargained, made deals on behalf of the Israeli government. He was protected by the American and Israeli intelligence elite. He was given a passport, an Austrian passport, from the American ambassador to Austria. I forget who it was now, but he was given a fake Austrian passport and a fake name. He was an intelligence asset. And this was part of, and this is one of the things that's interesting. It's coming out, was part of one of the ways in which Israel and the Zionist apparatus controlled the United States. They got people involved in compromising situations. They blackmailed them. Yeah, no, we're never going to know the full extent of it. And you have this now, this situation. It's a big club, and you see it's a big club of decadent elite that do whatever they want. They feel empowered. They can, this was a big prostitution operation, run with young girls by Ghislaine Maxwell and Epstein, and she was running that operation with him. And she's the daughter of an Israeli agent. I mean, there's no question about it. And so you have this, and you see the whole elite is involved in it. Democrats, Republicans, but Trump is involved in it one way or another. And Epstein had so much, Epstein was one of these guys, he had so much money to give away. He was a philanthropist. He was giving money to universities, the whole thing with Noam Chomsky, he was, so Epstein had parties. So everybody would go to Epstein's because if you're a part of the New York elite or the Florida elite, or, you ended up getting invited to a party, you go to a party, you had a picture taken with him. That doesn't necessarily mean you're doing anything, but he had his claws in everybody. So you're not going to know everybody. There's thousands of people whose names were involved with Epstein who probably didn't know anything that was going on, or may not have cared, so you've got this, but he was given essentially an infinite amount of money to play with. He didn't have any money. It came from Wexner, and it came from the Zionists, and this was setting up an operation, and it was have parties, give money to people, be a philanthropist, get as many people beside you with pictures as you can, and get as many people involved with these girls as you can. And he did that, and Ghislaine Maxwell did it. So it's a huge operation, and what it shows is it's a big club. It's a ruling class club. The ruling class does assume it can get away with anything it wants. The laws don't apply to them, the laws of morality or legal laws. But Trump was a part of it, to whatever extent certainly, anybody who doesn't understand that Trump grew up as a part of that. Trump was not a man of the people. This is nonsense. Anybody think Trump was a man of peace or a man of the people or a popular? This is one of these things. The guy talks like, oh, I'm one of you guys. No, he's not. He's a silver spoon elitist who grew up thinking he can screw anybody he wants. And in every single way, I can screw people financially, and I can screw people literally, and of any age, so to whatever specific extent he was involved, with raping women, you're going to look at those cases, but clearly, this is the thing for MAGA. You can't, get over this, MAGA. You were fooled by Trump. He's not one of you. He doesn't give a damn about you. He's part of that crew, period. And, and you were fooled by MAGA like leftists were fooled by Obama. And that's it. And give up on him. He doesn't care about you for a second. He doesn't care about you any more than he cared about any of those girls hanging around with Epstein. Whatever he was doing with them, he didn't care about them. So, this is the decadent elite, and it is the decadent elite, and their power comes from their wealth, which the infinite amount of wealth that this society allows people. Is it organized that for the purpose of allowing people to accumulate infinite amounts of wealth. And when they do that, that's what they turn into. So you got to change the society so people can't accumulate infinite amounts of wealth. And you're never going to be one of them. If you think, oh, I can't do that because someday I'm going to be a billionaire and hang out with Jeffrey Epstein. No, you're not. Give it up. They don't care about you. So that's the first thing that has to be said about this. The two things. One, this was Mossad intelligence, and we have to understand the level at which this shows how what the Zionists do to control the American political elite, and they do, and they have. And two, Trump is part of the swamp. He's a swamp creature. End of discussion in every single way. And if you didn't realize that, you were fooled. People who didn't realize that Barack Obama was a tool of the ruling class were fooled. And if you don't recognize that Donald Trump was a member of the ruling class and a complete swamp creature, then you were fooled. And if you're still being fooled, too bad for you. But a lot of them back now are saying, oh, yeah, maybe I was fooled, which good.
Yeah. There's some interesting splits in the right showing Trump is not America first, he's Israel first. And there are splits like Candace Owen and Tucker Carlson came out as anti-Zionist. And Candace Owen thinks there's some investigation that Charlie Kirk was assassinated by Israeli or by Zionist forces. I think there's some truth to what she's saying. What's your take on that?
I love watching Candace Owens now. She's become fabulous. It's entertainment, if nothing else. But look, there's nothing more important. Nothing from the point of view of me as a leftist Marxist. There's nothing more important in the United States of America than ending the American support for Zionism in Israel. And anybody who gets on that train, I'm getting on that train with them. And Candace Owens and Tucker Carlson have got on that train. And it is amazing to me, and I said this at the beginning, right up to a month after October 7th, when the student protests in Columbus, I hope this is the beginning of the first time in America of an anti-Zionist movement, not just criticizing this or that policy of Israel, but really recognizing what Zionism is and opposing it in principle. Anti-Zionist movement. And we do now have, it's astounding. It took 70 years, but we now have in the United States an anti-Zionist movement. And Tucker Carlson and Candace Owens are in the lead on it. Good for them. I support them 100% on it. And, so, and it's on the right, to the extent, as you say, people, first of all, America first. So that this is clearly not America first, and Trump said it before. Again, if you didn't listen to it before, he was telling you, I had Miriam and Adelson and what's her husband's name, and Miriam Sheldon. They were in the White House more than anybody else. They were telling me what to do. He said that before the election. So he was being run by his Zionist donors. And there's nothing new about that. So, again, if you didn't recognize that, you were fooled. You didn't want to see it. So, and now it's clear, but it's clear. Everybody's saying, if you're going to be America first, put the needs of the American citizens first, then you're not sending billions and billions of dollars. You're getting America involved in a war in Gaza. What for? We're in this war to kill and expel Palestinians and snipe, kill children. What for? What does this do for the United States? Absolutely nothing. And the heat on this, the real hot version of anti-Zionism is coming from Candace Owens and Tucker Carlson. I mean, the Democratic base is fed up with it too, because this is, at the end of the day, the Democratic base, who claims to be anti-colonialist and anti-racist, has to recognize this is colonialism and racism. We have to oppose it. But the Democratic Party is not going to do that. First of all, they're bought and sold by the donors too, and the Democratic base is as reluctant to be as hot about it as Candace Owens and Tucker Carlson. They are on fire about this, and that's good. And so I like seeing that. And it's to the extent that now there's so much anti-Zionism. I mean, for 60 years, people talked about the Kennedy assassination and didn't go near Israeli involvement. There was one guy, Michael Collins Piper, who wrote a book about that, 20 years ago, 15 years. Nobody paid attention to it. Suddenly, now anything that happens in the world, everybody say it was Israel. I mean, and the Charlie Kirk thing is a classic example of that. Because clearly, as with JFK was saying, I'm going to stop the Israelis from building atomic weapons. I'm going to insist on inspections of the Dimona nuclear facility, and he gets killed. And with Charlie Kirk, you have Charlie Kirk saying, these Jewish donors are, demonstrating every stereotype, and they're trying to bully me, and I'm going to have to stop supporting the Israeli cause. And he gets killed. Yeah. So, and clearly, his organization was being financed by Zionist donors. They had him in his pocket for a long time, and they had that movement, the movement that he represented on the right. Among young right-wing, I didn't even know who he was. But it was a matter. I learned after the fact the power that he had and the influence that he had over young kids in college, and he was turning against them, and he gets killed. So in the right now, with the Candace Owens, certainly it's like we should suspect Israel, and there's all these weird indications. I mean, these searches for all the medical staff of the hospital from Israel the week before the month. Right. It's very bizarre. So, there's reason to suspect Israel involvement. It's not stupid. It's just as there was in the JFK assassination. But I don't know what the answer is, but there's reason to suspect it. And it's great that now people are willing to say that, to say, hey, we have to recognize that we know, and Israel knows, how important it is to keep American support for Israel. And Charlie Kirk was turning against them, and turning against them in a way that would have been very important for them if they lost the support of his movement. And guess what? They've lost the support of his movement because whoever killed him, right. The Israelis are going to be suspected of it. And coming out and saying, Netanyahu coming out the day after and saying, we didn't kill him. I mean, it's like Nixon going, I'm not a crook. It's a little bit, okay. But there's the story that's been put out is so bad and so stupid. Did what's his name? Tyler Robinson kill him with a 30-06 bullet? No, he didn't. So whoever did, whatever story they're putting out doesn't make any sense. So clearly they're trying to cover something. What are they trying to cover for? Mm-hmm. And the fact is,
no one believes them.
They will cover for Israel for anything. The fact is, if Israel is involved in this, they will do anything to cover it up. The American state knows that Israel is involved. If they know that, they'll cover it up. They'll do anything to cover it up. That's the point. And this is what's changing. It's harder and harder to do. And we got to keep fighting with that. And I'm sorry, nothing is more important than ending American support for Israel, because it's right now killing the Palestinians and destroying the Middle East. 3-4 different countries are right now. And Israel has to be defeated, just like South Africa was. Israeli apartheid, Israeli Zionism apartheid has to be defeated and ended. And I don't know how that's going to happen, but the number one thing is loss of American support. We have to stop sending aid to Israel, period. Weapons of any aid of any kind, at the very least. So I don't know how this is. Again, this is one of these things that is going to be playing out in the American political sphere over the next couple of years very strongly. It's becoming amazingly, it's becoming a detriment to be Zionist politically. But on the right and the left, you being supported by AIPAC, they're gonna create other organizations that don't have Zionism or Israel in the name to support them. But you support Zionism, that we're not going to vote for you. That should be on the right and the left a principle of exclusion. You support Zionism, we're not going to vote for you. And if that means not voting for anybody, that's what it means. Because this is killing our country, and not just our country, it's killing the world, and it's very, very dangerous. So that, I think, is good that that's happening. I applaud Tucker and Candace for doing what they're doing, and I hope other people join them.
Right, interesting. Right. The traditional view from the socialist left is that Israel is an extension of U.S. imperialism. Like Noam Chomsky said that it's a U.S. aircraft carrier. RFK Jr. said the same thing. It's a U.S. aircraft carrier. He said it approvingly. Chomsky said it disapprovingly. But do you think it's gone a bit beyond that? Like, I don't know if Israel controls the U.S., but it's gone. Yeah.
No, the analogy I use, Israel is a parasite that controls the host. Like these parasites that get in the brains of the ants and they make them go where they want to go. So it's both totally dependent on the United States and it controls the United States in terms of Middle East policy anyway. And there's no, I'm sorry, it's not just an instrument of the United States. In fact, Israel is a detriment to the United States. American imperialism would do fine without Israel. It would do better. It would do better with all of the Arab countries and all of the Muslim countries. American imperialism would do fine without Israel. Israel makes a mess. It confuses things, and it's surplus repression. It's racism and colonialism. It's direct. Obvious, it's American imperialism doesn't need that to be effective. But it works much better with neo-colonialism and more subtle forms of white American supremacism or white supremacism or whatever it is. But Israel is too obvious. It's too obviously racist and supremacist and colonialist, and it's hurting the United States and it's costing the United States. Israel, how's Israel American aircraft carrier? Israel does not. The United States sends its aircraft carriers. Israel doesn't send aircraft carriers to help us. We send aircraft carriers to help them. Israel could not exist without us, but it does because the ideological power in the United States and the financial power and the exercise of financial power over the American political elite has been. And media elite has been enormous. And they have created an ideology that Zionism is a good thing. It's a wonderful thing that there's a Jewish state in the Middle East. It's so great. It's compensatory colonialism for the Holocaust, and we'd all be anti-Semites if we didn't support it. And all of that stuff that people believe for 70 years. I grew up with it. People believed it. And, it's nonsense. And it started with the Israelis coming, with the Zionists coming with a paper bag onto Harry Truman's campaign train and giving them whether it was $10 million or some huge sum at the time to support the existence of the state of Israel. And Harry Truman said what he was doing was, the whole State Department was, this is going to hurt us. This is going to hurt us with the Arabs. This is going to hurt us with the Arab states. This is going to go back and haunt us. And it has. So I think people, Israel presents itself as an extension of American imperialism, just like it's presented to the British. We're an extension of you. We are little Ulster in the Middle East. We're extension because Israel has to have the patronage of the imperial power. So it's presenting to the United States, we represent. If you didn't have us here, you'd have to invent us. No, we wouldn't. We could have perfectly good relationships with Saddam Hussein or the king of Saudi Arabia or the king of Jordan or the whoever runs Israel, and we can get the oil and we can get it. We don't need Israel asserting its right as a Jewish state to rule over the whole damn region, and the Arabs are inferior to them to do that. It does not help us. And people on the socialist left who want to say that want to reduce Israel and Zionism to a function of American imperialism. Zionism has a specific, relatively autonomous force in the world that latches on to the power of American imperialism to feed it, and it works. But we can break it. We can break it, and we don't have to. It's silly to say Israel is helpful to the United States in any way. It really isn't helpful to the United States in any way. And, except politically, it'll vote with us in the UN. Of course, it will do almost anything we want. But even then, Israel will actually defy us if it needs to in any way. And what it's doing is, look at what Donald Trump is saying about the Adelsons in the White House. Who's controlling whom? He told you who's controlling it. And this is writ large the picture of Israeli influence over the American political class. And so that's it. And we got to end it. And we got to stop saying that Israel is something which benefits the United States in any way, even American imperialism. I mean, you might find one or two examples where it's helpful here or helpful, but Israel disappeared tomorrow, American imperialism would still be there. And it would
Right.
be able to exert its influence in the Arab world more effectively. That's what I think. So that's my position on that.
Right. Interesting. There's still tensions with Iran. There are rumors that there might be U.S. might engage in another war with Iran. Nobody really knows for sure what's going to happen. There was a 12-day war with it, and it looks like Iran did better. Israel was hurt far more than they let out. But do you think there'll be an additional war? U.S. will have a direct war with Iran?
Short answer, yes. I think that's likely.
Okay.
I think, but it's a problem. Again, this is one of those things where they want it, they need it, but they're afraid of it, and it's not going to help them. It's like Venezuela. This is another instance, another theater of conflict where the conflict is there, the tension is there. Israel wants to do away with Iran. They want to do to Iran what they did with Syria and what they did with Iraq. They want to eliminate Iran as a power that can challenge them in the region. And it's going to be impossible to do. I mean, Iran is too strong for that. You get into a war with Iran, a big shooting war. They were hurt. Israel was hurt in the last instance, and they will be hurt even worse. And the United States gets involved in it. You can't attack. You can't invade Iran. It'll be 10 times worse than Iraq or Vietnam. But it's a problem. Israel also knows, and they're saying it now. It's not the nuclear weapons, it's the missiles. It's Iran's ability, its missile force, its artillery, its ability to strike and hurt Israel and damage it extensively. And Iran has that power, and it's going to get better. It's going to get stronger. So Israel, for 15 years, Israel has wanted to stop that from happening, and they still do. And the question is, not whether Israel wants to attack Iran. They want to attack it. They need to get the United States involved. Will they get Trump involved? Almost 70%, yes, they will, because Trump is not going to resist it. So I don't know, but it's very dangerous. And I'll say this again. This is a confrontation. Israel has to be defeated militarily. If this happens, Iran has to be in this to destroy Israel, not to stop the fighting, not to get the Americans to back off, but to destroy Israel. Their focus has to be on, you're telling me you have all these missiles, you're telling me you have all these weapons, and you do, use them. You got to be in this to win it. And that means to destroy Israel, to make the Zionists withdraw from Gaza, withdraw from Lebanon, withdraw from Syria, and walk away in defeat. This is, I don't know what, because otherwise they're going to destroy you. And Israel has the nuclear weapons that they will use. This is the problem with Israel. Israel is intimidating everyone with those nuclear. Everybody has them. Everybody knows they have them, and everybody knows they'll use them. And everybody should know they'll use them because they will use them. So this is a problem. If you get into a full-on war with Iran, Israel is going to use nuclear weapons. Iran can't back off from this and has to be willing to take the nuclear hit and destroy Israel because they can. Israel blow up nuclear weapons in Iran, but Israel can't protect its own cities from Iranian missiles with nuclear weapons. So this is a fight that's going to be had, or it is being had. It's on now, and Israel is winning that fight. Israel is winning. Let's everybody acknowledge this. They're losing the ideological game, the narrative game. They've lost that, and they're probably not going to get it back. But they're in control of Syria. They're in control of Lebanon. They're in control of. They've occupied right now more than half of Gaza, and they're never leaving it until they're defeated militarily. Israel will be in Syria, Lebanon, Gaza, and it will extend it. And two things will stop that: end of American involvement, end of American support, destruction of Israel by Iranian missiles and anybody else who wants to get involved, if Hezbollah still has it, and the emigration of the Jewish population from Israel elsewhere because they don't want to be involved in this crap anymore. And that's, they're not really in it. They don't want to be there fighting all the time. They want to be masters of their little colonial paradise. So you got to drive them out. You got to make them want to leave, and you got to make it impossible for them to live the peaceful colonial mastery lives that they want to live. And I don't know. So again, this is one of these unresolved conflict. The tension is there. We're on the verge of war. Will we go to war? I think yes, we will, but maybe not, because
hope not.
Trump,
it's hard to say.
Trump can go either way. Trump doesn't really want to get involved in a war on Iran. He may be smart enough to realize that would be fucking ridiculous. But on the other hand, all the people behind him, all of them, are telling him to do it. And Netanyahu's going to come here and tell him to do it. And I don't know if he's got one person in his cabinet who will say, "Don't do it. It's ridiculous." And this is one of these things. I'm sorry if you're going to tell me that Tulsi Gabbard or J.D. Vance doesn't really want to. They have to resign in protest if he does that. This is baloney. No, you got to resign in protest. It's like the Democrats. If you're going to tell me that you're going to disobey illegal orders, then you got to tell me to disobey those illegal orders. And if you're telling me, I'm really anti-war and I'm sitting here and I don't really want this to happen and it's terrible. No. You got to resign in protest and make that a political problem for Trump if he does that. So, and he's got to know you're going to do that. So this is the kind of thing that, people have to. The question has to be called for everybody. And I think in the year 2026, a lot of these questions are going to be called and decisions are going to have to be made with all of these. Same thing in Ukraine, in Latin America, Venezuela, in Middle East, Iran, Palestine, and in Ukraine, Russia. Decisions are going to have to be made whether to fight or to take the loss. And I would not put my money on any American president saying, "I'll take the loss."
Right. Interesting. Yeah. The Ukraine war is still going on. Last year, I thought it would be over by now, but it's still going on. Trump had a few attempts when he first got in to negotiate some peace settlement, but he didn't know what he was doing. He doesn't really Russia can accept nothing less than a complete settlement on their terms. Ukraine can't be used as a base to attack Russia. Russia is winning. It's going very slowly, but they are winning. Looks like the Kiev regime is crumbling. Interestingly, U.S. is sort of backing away while Europe is becoming much more belligerent. They're bringing back conscription in Germany, or starting to bring it back in the UK even. Callas, who I think she's from Latvia. She's hyper aggressive, and she comes from a tiny country. Do you think that's going to go on for a while, or Russia's going to win in the near future? Or?
Well, again, it's true. I didn't think it would go on this long. Ukraine has put up a good fight, but it's not Ukraine. It's the whole NATO, all of NATO. And the Americans are still involved. And they just said it last week. We're still giving intelligence. This war can't go on without American intelligence. The Americans are providing support here. And again, whatever Trump thinks, they're providing support. Again, I'll go back to the Syria example. Trump said, "Let's get out of Syria." They lied to him about how many troops were there. They're supporting. Pentagon is supporting Ukraine. Now Europe, again, this is Trump. Trump doesn't know what he's doing. He's not a mediator in this. He's the principal. The United States was the principal actor in this, getting this started. This was a proxy. Rubio said it. This is a proxy war that the United States got NATO involved in. Victoria Nuland, John McCain, they were over there overthrowing the government of Ukraine, and they thought they saw an opportunity to get rid of Putin, to re-destroy Russia, to bring back some Yeltsin-esque figure, and to break Russia up. They thought the sanctions from hell would force the oligarchy to overthrow Putin, and they thought, or the military to overthrow Putin, and it didn't. And Russia's now stronger economically and militarily than it has been since the Soviet Union, and Europe has been destroyed economically and militarily. They've disarmed themselves to give all their weapons to Ukraine. Then they've deindustrialized themselves in order not to buy Russian gas. I mean, so what's going to happen? Again, it's a loss. If the Russians, all of this negotiation has been going on among the Europeans and the Ukrainians and the Americans. They were all talking among themselves and coming up with something that they think they can sell to Russia, that Trump thinks he can sell to Russia. Like, I can sell this to anybody. Trump thinks, oh, I'm the big deal negotiator. I'll make a deal. I'll show Putin what, and he won't be able to resist. This is baloney. The Russians don't care about it. None of the things they're saying, the Russians haven't agreed to any of it. They really haven't. It's been, they said, oh, these are points we can talk about. I see some things here you have in this 28-point plan that we could have it. This is a basis for a discussion. They haven't agreed to anything, and they're not going to. The Russians are fighting for something that's existentially important to them, and they have the power to keep fighting. And I don't know to the extent to which Ukraine can keep fighting. I don't think they can. But again, we do have to be careful because it's gone on for a long time, and Ukraine is fighting like hell. But Russia's going to overwhelm them. But again, the question will be called, and the Europeans are very clear about it. This is a loss. If the resolution of the Ukraine conflict is Russia controls these four oblasts plus Crimea, Ukraine is a neutral state, renouncing NATO status forever. That's a loss. We have lost. NATO and the United States have lost. Okay, and that's the case, and everybody in the world is going to know it. And Donald Trump, the president of the United States, is going to have to accept that. Is he really going to accept that? You want to put money on that? This is a loss. He's not going to be able to hide it. Donald Trump comes out and says, "Oh, well, look, I made a peace and I saved the day in Ukraine." You didn't save the day. Russia has everything I wanted, and nobody in the world's going to believe you. So, do I think that Donald Trump or any president of the United States is going to say, "We'll take the loss. We'll accept. We have to take the loss"? Well, what else are you going to do? I don't know. What else are they going to do? The only other thing you have to do is the tactical nuclear weapons. It's going to be a false flag. They'll blame it on Russia. I don't know, but it's the biggest loss since World War II in the United States. It's the loss of NATO. It's the entire power of NATO was involved in that. That's why Ukraine's been fighting for so long. It was armed, trained, supervised by NATO and the United States out of Wiesbaden, Germany. And they lost. They're going to lose. And you can't hide that loss. And they're trying to create a situation. They're going to go for this. Oh, they think they can create a Korean situation, demilitarized zone, frozen conflict. Russia is not going to go for it. And if that would mean if Putin went for it, they would overthrow Putin. but I just, at this point, nobody in Russia's, again, they fool themselves about Trump too. Oh, Trump really wants to get out of this. And Trump may want to get out of it. Trump personally may say, I don't want to have anything to do. Well, let's get out. Let's blame it on Biden. But he had his chance. He had his chance after that first meeting with Zelensky in the Oval Office. He could have said, "This was Biden's war. I don't want." Even though it's not true. He's the one who started arming Russia.
Yeah, I thought he was going to. Yeah,
he was the one. This is nonsense. He's not a referee. You can't be the boxer and the referee at the same time. And he's trying to do that exactly. He thinks he can do that, and the Russians were thinking maybe he could do that. He's not going to do that. He's gonna either accept the loss or fight. Well, what are you going to do? And how is he going to do it? How is he going to fight? I mean, it's almost impossible to figure it out. So you've got, again, this conflict in which it's come to a head. It can't go on for another 5 years, and the Russians aren't going to let it. I don't know what they'll do, but I think they're gonna force the issue in 2026 to insofar as they can. If they can occupy, get the two biggest cities, Donbass and Zaporozhye, what are you going to do? I mean, they'll have to. They also are going to have to decide. Oh, it's just a special military operation. We're not really at war. Well, you have to decide. At some point, they're going to have to decide. Maybe we got to attack Kiev and go in there and overthrow the government because they need regime change in Kiev. They do. They can't. This can't be settled unless there's another kind of regime in Kiev, and I don't know how easy that's going to be to do. So it's a very difficult situation. This is one of these tensions, points of conflict that is at the edge of a boil, and it has to come to a boil, and it has to be confronted, and the question has to be called and settled in one way or another. And I don't know exactly how it's going to happen, but I do not think people should believe without, I mean, just think about it for 5 seconds. Will the president of the United States, under pressure from everyone in Europe and every neocon, including the Democrats, especially the Democrats here, will the president of the United States say, I'll take the loss? He's going to be excoriated for it by the Democrats. Oh, he gave up Ukraine. He lost Ukraine. He's the one who, and they're going to do to him what he did to Biden for on Afghanistan. You know, it'll be just as stupid. You know, he didn't lose Ukraine any more than Biden lost Afghanistan. He just left when it was over. So, you know, but they'll do to him. And he knows that, and he'll be told that. He'll be told, you are going to be the loser here. You're going to be portrayed as a big loser. And what are you going to do? You really want to do that? Or so that's the way it's going to go down. I don't know what the result. I don't know how he's going to resolve that.
Yeah, it's like an existential, right? It's an existential threat for both Europe and Russia, for both the West and Russia, when neither side can really back out. One more thing I just want to ask. It's been over an hour. One thing I just want to ask, and you don't have to answer this if you don't want to. You had a really interesting article on UFOs or UFOs, UAPs. That was really interesting. About a year ago, I started to make a video on UFOs, you know, their congressional testimony and stuff on. I started to make a video on. I may get back to it. I took a lot of notes on it. It's a subject I've been fascinated by myself. I don't know what to think about it. Back up to like 2018, I think it was the New York Times had articles like on it, normalizing it. Before, if you talked about it, it could ruin your career. You were ridiculed, but now it was okay to talk about it. I believe there were two waves of congressional testimony on it. And what do you think? Something's there, or what do you think's going on?
Well, yeah, good for you. Look, I've been interested in it all my life.
Okay.
And I've read a lot about it, kept up on it continuously. The 2017 article in the New York Times with the Tic Tac and the gimbal videos, you know, it was an interesting thing because they really did admit, okay, there are things there that we can't explain. That's now acknowledged by the New York Times and the federal government and the Pentagon. But they try to kind of, it's another example of how they can acknowledge something and then put it aside in a way that nobody really notices that that's been acknowledged and what it might mean and how important it is. It's really quite interesting, you know, isn't it? I mean, I thought after that, oh my gosh, this is going to be something that's going to be talked about now. People are going to be, but no, it wasn't. And then you had the David Grush thing 2 years ago where he came out, and I mean, you think this would be a big story. It's not a big story. Everybody kind of acknowledges it now. I mean, but it's back in the head. It's in the back of the head. Oh, but that doesn't really mean anything. Well, doesn't it? I don't know. I mean, and I really don't know. And as I say, you know, I've been interested in this for a long time, and there's something there. This is a phenomenon. There's a phenomenon that we don't understand, and the best thing you can say about it is we don't understand it. All the issues and all the propositions we put forth to understand it are not enough. You know, from extraterrestrial visitors, you know, people come. The simplest thing in the world is people come from another planet to visit us. I mean, there's nothing terribly, you know, there's a technological problem there, or an engineering problem, or a speed of light problem, but conceptually, you know, the idea that there are other intelligent civilizations in the universe and they might come visit other, that nothing should be even particularly surprising about that. But, you know, we have to, but there are other things involved in it that are weirder, and I don't know what to do about it. So all I'm saying is, you know, this is a real phenomenon. You know, it's at the point which there's so much evidence of this that it's real, and it's acknowledged that it's real. So I mean, I don't want to argue about it. If you don't think it's real, then you haven't seen enough evidence, you haven't looked at it, whatever. Yeah. What to make of it, I don't know, because as I say, whatever it is, as far as I know, it's had no particularly strong effect on the geopolitics of the world, or, you know, nothing's happened that I can say, oh my God, this has changed the world because the aliens did it, or whoever did it, whatever it is. There may have been some, there are assertions that were some technological advances that were accelerated by understanding technology that we got from recovery. That may be the case, but whatever it is, it's been nothing that's been earth-shattering. As I say, we still don't have good flying cars. In the 60s, we were supposed to have flying cars by the 80s. So, but it's something now that is so widespread. There are so many people coming out about this, and I haven't seen the movie, The Age of Disclosure, which, because I know it's in it, I don't want to pay for it yet. But, from my point of view, I think it's fascinating. It is. I don't know what the result of it is going to be. Will the government actually disclose this? I think not. I think they're going to hide it. Look, they're doing a very good job of hiding it in plain sight. This is amazing to me. I mean, again, before 2017, you say, there are UAPs flying around, USOs from the water. It's at least as much in the water as it is in the air, flying around, going underwater, and we have no idea what they are. And they're clearly intelligent, and they clearly do things we can't do and don't know how they do. And forget about it. Now let's go and move on. But there's a reason to forget about it works, because they're not in your face. They're not doing anything to change the world, as far as I can see. They're kind of there alongside us, doing whatever it is. It's there. I have no doubt that it's there. But I don't know what the significance of it is for us. But I suspect, will there be? The question now is, will there be disclosure? Will the government get up and say, yes, we've had a crash retrieval program for 70 years, and there are these craft, there are these phenomena that we've been studying, and we've been lying about it. I don't think they're going to do that. Although they don't have to do it. I mean, do you have to? Does the Israeli government have to get up and say, oh, yeah, we were running Jeffrey Epstein and blah, blah, blah? Do they really have to do that for you to know that was true? I mean, at this point, there's so many people coming forward and saying, people in the highest levels of intelligence, military, coming forward and saying, yeah, I saw alien bodies and alien craft. I mean, wow, okay. So, you don't want to believe them, don't believe them. But there's so much of it coming out that it's beyond, to me, the evidence is so overwhelming. But what is going to happen about it? I think they're going to continue hiding it until the day, at some point, again, somehow, something's going to come out that's going to call the question, and that everybody's going to have to. But again, someplace that it's already come out. It came out in 2017. It came out with David Grush. We know that there's been a program. We know this, and you got to be stubbornly naive and not to acknowledge it. There's been some kind of program with something that we don't understand. And will it be acknowledged in some way that suddenly takes over and occupies a large fraction of our thinking and of our cultural conversation in a serious way, as opposed to an entertainment way? I don't know. I can't believe it won't at some level. I think it's coming. It's getting to the point where it kind of almost has to. But it's going to be fascinating to see what happens with that. It's one of the things going to be fascinating to see what happens. I think they will just cover it like they always do, and pretend it's not of any significance, because maybe it's not of any significance. But I can't believe it's not of any significance. And at some point, I think we're gonna face that. That'll come out. But again, I don't know.
Interesting. Yeah, interesting. Years ago, the mother of a friend of mine, she was an immigration lawyer, a very level-headed person. She said she saw a UFO. She lived from Connecticut. She saw a UFO hovering above their house for a time, and then it flew away. I had another coworker who claimed to be abducted by an alien, and she was an alien abductees support group in the Boston area. I don't know what's going on with that. Interesting phenomena that people who've seen UFOs throughout the early 20th century into this century, the way people perceived it tended to change according to the culture they were in. Like early sightings, I think it was Lieutenant Governor of Idaho, so on, early 1900s, it was a cigar-shaped. originally, and then it evolved to like a flying saucer. We know the way people, something there. I think the way people perceive it tends to evolve, as far as I understand. Theory, just wacky theory. I think Alex Jones, of all people, mentioned this on Tucker Carlson. Take it with a grain of salt, but they said he thought it was like a different level of reality. Like metaphysics, if people into the occult or into that stuff, New Age stuff, different plane of existence. If there's anything, not very materialist of me, but maybe a different level of reality. I don't know what's going on, but kind of interesting to speculate.
Yeah, I mean, there's all kinds of theories: ultra terrestrial,
Yeah,
extra dimension, another dimension. Time travelers, whatever. Again, these are things because there are weird things about it that go beyond what you think of as a visitor from another planet. There are weird things about it that are not explained, and that's. And I don't have the explanation for them, but they're there, and the phenomenon is strange, and it's stranger than we think, and so I don't brush anybody off. I think we should talk about it seriously, insofar as we can get anything about it. These people, it's worth your curiosity. It's worth my curiosity, and we'll have to see. I don't know what it is, and it may be a number of things. Again, this is not. There are more things in heaven and earth than we have figured out, and that's. I'm glad I put it out there. That's my position on it. I don't have any hesitation saying I think this is a real phenomenon. I think it's worth people thinking about. And yet I don't really know the extent to which it's going to make a difference in our lives, because it really hasn't that much as far as I can see already. Maybe someone can tell me there's a difference there, but I just don't know.
Okay, interesting. Okay, well, guess we're it's been over an hour. Is there anything else you'd like to? Is there anything else you'd like to add before I?
No, that's great. It's been great talking to you. Please come to. I encourage people to visit me on my Substack, Jim Kavanagh's The Polemicist Substack, and on X, Twitter at The Polemicist _, and buy me a coffee, subscribe, free or paid, to my Substack, etc.
Okay, well, thank you, and take care.
Okay, Kate, appreciate it. Thank you.
Bye.